Forward to this ticket. All right. Welcome to Coffee with a Purpose, everyone. Hope everybody had a good Father's Day weekend. And it's a little bit unusual for me to not be introducing a guest speaker because it's going to be me today, boring you guys to tears with everything we've done to try to use less energy here, primarily install heat pumps, but I want to talk about a couple of other things too. And then really go off the deep end when I start talking about how to measure all this stuff. Um, Most of us know each other, but we do have a couple of new folks. So we'll do our usual introductions as much for their benefit as anything. Kathleen?
Hi, good morning. I'm Kathleen Donovan. I'm a 36-year resident of Natick. I'm on the Library Board of Trustees and I volunteer with Keep Natick Beautiful.
Thanks, Kathleen. Cindy?
Cindy Bates, coming up on 6 years in Natick. I sing in sound and spirit. I beautify Natick. Walking around. I'm a beautiful, but what is it? Pat,
Keep Natick beautiful,
yeah,
right?
she
Yeah.
likes to have me called, Sally likes me to say a beautifier.
Come on.
And I am also a trail steward for the Takawambe Trail.
Thanks, Cindy. Tom?
I am Tom Jelly, 35-year resident of Natick, and love this show. And welcome, and thanks.
Thanks, Tom. Janji?
Jean Simonar, 26 years residents of Natick, part of the Lutheran Church and participating different activities through the church. I'm also a singer, singing different choirs, and I love Natick.
Thanks, Janji. Carrie?
Good morning. Most of you know me, Natick Rotary, Keep Natick Beautiful, Repair Cafe. And I was part of Renewable Natick that was able to get town meeting to pass the resolution to move the town to 100% renewable energy back at town meeting 2018. I can't believe it's coming on 8 years.
Wow.
Yeah, unbelievable. And yesterday's Rotary Tour de Natick was a big success. Most riders ever, tons of money raised. So it was a
Great.
good day.
That's great. Mark, welcome.
Oh, thanks. I've been in Natick about 4 years and served term on the Net Zero Committee, Towns Committee, and I've been a heat pump coach for a little over 4 years now.
Awesome. Mark's going to correct me on all the things I get wrong, of which there I think will probably be many. But Adam.
Hi, everyone. This is my first time joining Coffee with a Purpose. I'm the new minister at the Elliott Church in South Natick, and I'm going to be in the hot seat next week. So I thought I would come this week and just experience this with you all.
Hopefully we won't chase you away. But yeah, welcome to seeing you around town and welcome to Natick. Martin.
I'm Martin Kessel, and since people are still giving the number of years in Natick, I'll do one more bragging for the 70 years in Natick, and a lot has changed. And one thing I'm head of the open space, or I have been head of the open space committee for many years. One thing I have noticed yesterday, I was taking some visitor around Natick and just pointing out the new things that have happened in open space, not even all the classic things like the Eisenhower. So even among the new things, there's some amazing things like the tiny forest right at the entrance to the high school, which is developed over the last 3 years in a kind of beautiful setup. So I encourage people to take a look at some of these things.
Cool. Yeah, it's great. Carol.
Hi there. Good morning. Carol Berkowitz. I too, I'm over a 50-year resident of Natick. I live on Lake Cochituate, have done a lot of work to keep it clean and keep it healthy. And I just love the town. So welcome. And I think you'll enjoy it too. We'll help you.
Thanks, Carol. Brindley?
Good morning. 26-ish year resident. busybody around town. Um, Similar interests from everybody else here. And good morning. I'm happy to hear your conversation this morning, Doug, because it's something that we guys in our house have been talking about as well. So, and I do this from my phone for people who are new, and that's why it's a picture, because it's really challenging to stand and hold my phone like this the whole time.
That's quite all right. We like your image there. The other reason someone feels. Yeah. Rick.
Morning, everybody. I wish I had a handle like Brinley on what, anyway, never mind. It's good to see everybody. I look forward to hearing you, Doug. I'm really glad you're doing this. Because I fiddled around with it myself after we got a heat pump, and it's great to see everybody, and especially good always to see Martin back. Thank you. Bye.
Yeah. Thanks. Pat?
Good morning. Pat Conaway. Keep Natick beautiful. How's everybody doing? Yeah, good to see you, Martin.
Great. And Sarah?
I'm Sarah, obviously Doug's wife. I am a retired hydrogeologist, having spent my working life doing hazardous waste site cleanup. Now I volunteer with the First Congregational Church downtown, and I'm on the Community Preservation Committee and various other little initiatives here and there around town.
And I'm Doug. I convene this group. So this presentation is it's a PowerPoint, some short videos, some PDF files, and some Excel spreadsheets. So I'll do my best to manage the tech. I'm sure it'll all go wrong, like most demos do, but we'll do my best. And please interrupt me as you can. Sarah's, you can use the raise hand if you want, or just yell out. Hopefully we'll still, when I'm sharing things, see the screen when people have their hands up. So let me try to at least start by sharing the presentation. Let's see. All right. Are people seeing that? Should say our home energy efficiency journey.
Yes.
What a mouthful.
Yes.
Yeah. All right, here we go. Here we go. If the screen would move. Okay, so the main topic is heat pumps, but since it's all about being as responsible on fossil fuels and the planet as possible, I do want to start on solar power, because honestly, that's what we were trying to get installed first for many years and have been largely unsuccessful with it. And then the rabbit hole of this presentation is how to measure everything, which, like I say, may put some people to sleep, may fascinate a few of you. But solar power. So rooftop solar, that's what everybody thinks about. I love when Sarah and I take walks around the neighborhood to see panels on more and more people's roofs. And we've wanted to have it on our roof for quite a while. And as I'll explain in a minute, it just hasn't worked out. But it's not the only kind of solar you can have. There's this wonderful thing called community solar, where even if you're not a homeowner at all, just a renter, if you pay an electric bill, you can participate in a community array and get credits that can help the planet and help you. And then there's this brand new thing called balcony solar. Europe is ahead of us on this, but it's starting to take hold in this country. And I'll touch on that as well as a very small scale, easier to adopt method of getting a little bit of solar energy. But as to rooftop solar, and Sarah obviously jumped in here, but I would say that we've probably had at least 6 solar vendors come to the house over the last 10 years. And you guys, I mean, some of you have solar. I think you probably know the general idea. They come and they sit in your dining room and bring up a satellite photo of your roof and design the whole system and tell you, how much you can save. So we've got 3 challenges here as to why solar has not worked for us. One of them is the roof shape. Brindley definitely knows this, living across the street. Maybe others have seen our house. It's a style that doesn't have any large unbroken roof surfaces. There's gables and dormers all over the place. I'll show you a picture a few slides later. Also, it doesn't have decent south-facing orientation. The biggest problem is the tree cover. There's a lot of trees, and most of them are trees that we don't even own. So that option of trimming to provide better roof coverage just doesn't exist for us.
And some of them are really, really large, and we just were unwilling to cut them down to put solar panels up.
Yeah. The final quote that we got, because panels have gotten more efficient as the years go by, is one that could possibly have generated about a third of our capacity, although that was before we switched to heat pumps. And as you know, heat pumps use a lot of electricity. Here's the Google aerial photograph of our house, that little dot. You can't see our house. All you can see is the dot surrounded by these trees.
Yeah.
Nearby houses, you could see a lot of the roofs. Here's our neighbor, Brindley's. Has
No, ours is
some
40,
solar panels.
44.
44 panels on your house?
Where it says 44.
Yes.
And I can tell you, so that part of the roof right there that has the 44 on it is east facing. And it's the solar array covers pretty much like the whole entire part of that roof. And then if you just go to the little left of that, the little corner that's towards the street, right there, that little section right there where you can see there's a few more panels. Yeah. Those panels are south facing and generate as much, if not more, than the entire east facing side of our roof. Oh, wait, Greg's correcting me. How much? Oh, well, that's what he used to tell me, is that it really generated a bunch more considering the number of panels that it is to the east facing ones.
Yeah.
And I will say, as a humorous note, with multiple vendors, there was a Google mapping glitch, and they would sit, as Doug said, at our table and pull up a satellite image and merrily say, I could put these roof panels here and there. And I'd look over and I'd say, you do know that's not our house, right? And there was a little glitch that caused, when you put in our address, that a house further up the street would pop up. We had people show up at our door looking for parties, and all these random things were happening. So we could have paid for the neighbors to get a solar array if we.
So anyway, for all those reasons, putting a nice array on a roof just wasn't going to work. But there is this thing called community solar, again, where you can participate in a community array. This percent participation, the way that works is they, just like a regular array, they start by looking at your annual energy bills and estimating, well, how much energy are you using, and then say, oh, we've got a community array. I think in our case, ours is in Needham somewhere. And, your usage is 2% of that community array will arrange to will sell you the credits for 2% of the production of that. 80% of the value with an asterisk. The way this works, and honestly, I don't understand under the covers kind of the economics of how it works for the people building the array, but I guess it's through various government incentives. But essentially, you buy the credits equal to the production percentage that you've signed up for at 80% of what you're paying Eversource for your electricity. One of the nice things about this is it does not matter what you pay for your electricity. So if you're signed up for one of the Natick aggregation programs, if you're getting the special heat pump rate in the wintertime that is available now, the 80% goes off of that variable.
And we had previously been paying the 100% green option under the aggregation program.
Yeah, which we are. So now we're essentially paying 80% of the green option. You don't, as I said, you don't need to be a homeowner. So it's just if you pay an electric bill at all. Here's our first attempt at some more tech here. This is supposed to be just about a 2-minute video that explains the concept of this. Let me see if this will play for people.
What is community solar?
Are people hearing that okay?
Unfortunately, not
Yeah.
everyone can install rooftop solar panels. Your property may not be suitable due to roof conditions or shading. Or you might be a renter and not own the roof over your home. Luckily, even if you can't install solar panels where you live, you can still benefit from the power of the sun with community solar. How does community solar work? First, solar developers build large solar energy systems, known as solar farms. Then, people in the surrounding area join the community solar program to receive credits for a portion of the electricity that solar farm produces. This process is called virtual net metering, and it allows your utility account to receive credits for solar power that's produced elsewhere. So, how can you sign up? Ownership and subscription are the two main ways to sign up for community solar. In an ownership program, you purchase a set number of panels at the solar farm and then receive credit for all the electricity they generate. In a subscription program, you buy a portion of the electricity coming from the solar farm at a lower price than utility rates, but you do not actually own the panels themselves. You should expect to save 5 to 15% on electricity costs with your subscription. In addition to paying your community solar provider, you should still expect to pay a monthly electric bill because most programs will only cover a portion of your electricity usage. But you'll only pay for the electricity you need that your share of the solar farm does not cover. Community solar is quickly becoming popular across the country, but it's only currently available in select states. To see the most comprehensive list of what community solar programs are available in your area, check out the Energy Sage Community Solar Marketplace.
Right. I think let me just get back to the presentation here. If I can find it. Sorry. There we go. They said 5 to 15%, so we're saving 20%. It's typically the lower percent, although if you're either income qualified or living in I always forget the term.
Environmental justice community.
Which
neighborhood.
Which the central part of Natick qualifies for. So geographically, live in the right place. You can save some money. So.
And it's a larger savings if you're in the environmental justice area, but you still save even if you're not in one of those areas.
Yeah. So
Doug, a question for you.
Yeah.
From Rick, who has community solar and a heat pump. Do you, I mean, it's got your subscription, regardless of you're now having a heat pump, in which case I assume you came off of gas or oil or something. Right. So your electric bill is now going to be higher. And is your subscription going to cost you more because you're going to be using more electricity, or how have they resized it?
Not cost more, but yes, I contacted these folks and said our electricity bills just went up. Yep. Can we get a bigger percentage? And so, yes, they've just increased the percentage of the array. So
that's great. That's great.
Yeah.
When I got it, we live in a condo, as some of you know, and the HOA was not allowing solar on the roof. So we joined one called Clearway, which later on, when I really dug into who owned it, was owned by a Texas fossil fuel company. Doing this doing this all over the country. Texas is way ahead on this stuff. They did not give me the alternative of subscription. It was a buy it. So you're basically buying it for the lifetime of the solar, which they called 20 years. Mm-hmm. And you can cancel it. It's not a quick and easy process. And after you buy it, you can resize it, which once we were able to put solar on a roof and got a heat pump, we did resize it. But, we had built up by the time they actually canceled one and started the next, we had built up an enormous credit, which we did not get. It disappeared.
Oh, that's too bad.
Yeah. So over $1,000 of, credit that we had gained through the net metering was gone. And that was a rather rude awakening for me, but it sounds like your deal is a much better deal. So.
Yeah, this one is subscription. You do sign a contract, but there's no cost to it, and you can get out of it at any time, and you can adjust it. And like all solar production, you get higher production during the summer months. But we'll have higher use in the winter months. So there are some months you get a credit, or you have credit balance. Some months you don't.
Yeah. So we currently have quite a substantial credit with Eversource, but as the cold weather comes, we'll chew into that credit as we use more power.
Yeah.
When did you get it? When did you get it?
Well, a couple of years ago. The outfit that we use is Sunwealth, I think. Excuse me. Separate from this, just follow up with me if anybody wants information about that. So the last thing on solar before we move to heat pumps is this thing called balcony solar.
Can I
go right ahead.
Yeah, sorry. Rick, sorry to about your situation to add insult to injury. I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, I think what's coming out of Texas is class 2 renewables, which is generating burning garbage and other things like that, versus the class 1 renewables, which Jillian set up, which is wind, solar, and hydro and things like that. So sorry you got such a bad deal there. But
well, it's advertised as community solar, and it's advertised as being somewhere local to New England. But what's actually in it, I don't know. It's a good question.
I think they're burning trash to generate the I think.
Yeah.
Well, you do buy a portion of a solar farm, but if you believe them, that's what they say. So I don't know. Anyway, all right.
Yeah. Interesting. Wow.
I spent too many hours researching things with them. I didn't even want to think about it anymore.
Yeah, ours is supposedly, I will say we have not driven over to look for this thing, but supposedly it's on a big industrial commercial building in Needham someplace.
Yeah. So the last thing on solar is a balcony solar, which is much smaller scale, and the key things is it's small scale and it's plug-in. So you don't need to hire a solar contractor. These literally plug into a wall outlet and just produce a small amount, 400 to 1200 watts or so, and feed it into your own usage. I don't think that there's any real option of generating credits, which is one of the reasons they're scaled small. They are not allowed yet in Massachusetts, I believe. They're allowed in Utah, Maine, I think just passed legislation. The reason legislation is required for these is to ensure that the products that are sold are engineered safely. You don't want a bunch of solar or energy going back into the grid if utility workers are working on it. And not to get into the weeds too much, but by plugging it directly into a particular circuit, you could be introducing more power on that circuit than the circuit breaker for that part of the house is wired for, which is another reason why they're small. So here's another just tiny little explanation video of this, if it will play. It's just 2 minutes.
What if you could plug something in and instantly lower your electric bill? It exists. It's called balcony solar, and it may be the simplest version of solar energy ever created. Balcony solar systems are made up of small solar panels that you can hang over a balcony railing, set out on a patio, or put anywhere you get good sunlight. And the best part is you literally just plug them into a regular wall outlet and they immediately start to work. That's it. No construction, no complicated setup. Most people can install these in under an hour. Once it's plugged in, the solar panel starts generating electricity from sunlight and feeding that energy into your home, which means you're buying less electricity from the utility and you save money immediately. The system is made up of 3 parts: the panel, an inverter, and a plug. When sunlight hits the panel, something amazing happens. Inside is silicon, a material made from sand. When light particles hit it, it knocks electrons loose and those electrons turn into electricity immediately. Those new electrons travel from the panel into the inverter, which converts the electricity into the kind your home uses every day. Now, this is the part most people don't realize. The electricity inside your home doesn't care where it comes from. It just flows to wherever it's needed. Think of it like water moving through pipes. Once those solar electrons enter your home's wiring, they travel backwards and spread throughout your entire apartment or house. All your outlets are connected behind the walls, so the electrons naturally find whatever device is using energy at that moment. Your fridge, your Wi-Fi router, your laptop, your lights. Your appliances use the closest available electricity first. So when your panels are generating electricity, your home uses that energy first before pulling electricity from the grid. And that's how your electric bill goes down. You're replacing some of the electricity you would have bought with electricity you made yourself. Now, on the rare occasion that nothing inside your home is using electricity, those electrons will keep flowing to the grid, which is not in your financial best interest. That's why balcony solar systems are sized small or paired with a battery to store energy for later use. A single panel can cover everyday essentials like a refrigerator and home electronics. A couple of panels can cover a meaningful share of a small home or apartment's heating or air conditioning. And the best part, with just a small patch of sunlight, you can install one of these in under an hour and take it with you when you move. It's solar energy reduced to its simplest form. Sunlight creates electrons, electrons move through your home, and your devices run on clean energy you made yourself. In other words, you're literally plugging into the sun.
Back to the presentation.
Oh. Hey, Doug.
Yes.
I have seen that. I've seen an array. It's not done like that, so it didn't require. But there are people who have solar panels in their yard. Just to be clear, they're not the balcony kind that you just plug in. I assume. I don't really know, but there's an array I pass on. In Sherburne, others may have right near, Washington Street, and a big house with a big south-facing lawn. And it's a bunch of panels out in the yard. Sorry. On, what the hell's the street? Not Farm Street, the other one that cuts in from Washington Street.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no reason why panels have to be on your roof if you've got a decent yard and don't mind using it for such things. But I don't know. I'm just fascinated with this because it's small scale and easy, and might when it eventually gets allowed in Massachusetts, I think the bill is maybe passed through one house and not the other or something. That may be interesting, but. Anyway,
we've read about it in like Puerto Rico, because of all their central power plants being devastated and so on. And Africa and places like that are making great use of it.
Yeah.
They don't have much of a grid to take down. Yeah.
Yeah. Brindley?
I just wanted to say that this is a topic that's not as hot as it should be, but hot nonetheless in Massachusetts right now, because the big omnibus energy bill that is trying to get passed actually includes language around this balcony solar, trying to keep landlords from preventing people from doing it. And it's actually one of the better parts of the bill. Some of us have met with Linsky and Spilka about it, but I put a link with some information in about it, because this is actually something that they're talking about pretty regularly in Massachusetts right now.
Great, thank you. All right, so onto the heart of the presentation, heat pumps. So these are the topics, just kind of how Sarah and I tried to educate ourselves about heat pumps. The timing, again, we've been looking at trying to do this for many years. What really pushed us to finally pull the trigger last year and do it was that our good old or not good government, the incentive picture was getting much worse. So we wanted to take advantage of some of those federal credits before they went away. So we'll talk about how we looked at a bunch of different vendors and eventually narrowed in on one. And it's not that's not simple in terms of they just show up and put it in. Maybe some houses isn't the case, but certainly here, there was a lot of work to do to prepare for the heat pump to be ready for it to be installed. The installation itself was pretty extensive, and then talk about post installation. So those are kind of the topics. All right, so I do have one more little 2-minute video about what a heat pump is. I don't necessarily need to. Do everybody really understand completely the concept? All right, I'm getting at least one nodded, shaking head. So this is the last video. Here we go. Just conceptually what a heat pump does. And Mark, jump in if this is completely misleading or something. But
a heat pump is used to heat or cool a home. Contrary to popular belief, a heat pump doesn't generate heat. Instead, it moves it around. In winter, even during a cold spell, the atmosphere contains heat. With the heat pump, heat can be absorbed from the outdoor air and sent into your home. In fact, there is energy in the air down to as low as -273 degrees Celsius. The energy is collected by the outdoor unit, which transfers it to the fluid circulating in the heat pump loop. This liquid is referred to as the refrigerant. It can circulate as a liquid or a gas. The refrigerant moves through the compressor, which compresses the gas to warm it up. When the heat is released indoors, the refrigerant cools down. It becomes liquid and returns outdoors, where the cycle starts again. It's mainly the heat pump's compressor that consumes electricity. Although it consumes the same amount of energy as an electric baseboard heater, a heat pump produces up to 3 times more heat. That's what makes a heat pump more energy efficient when it's in heating mode. Even when the temperature is below the freezing point, a heat pump provides a good amount of heat to meet a home's heating needs. A heat pump cycle can also be reversed in order to cool your home. In summer, the refrigerant absorbs heat from the indoor air and discharges it outside. The cooled refrigerant then returns indoors to cool the home once more. Heat pumps use highly reliable, cutting-edge technologies to heat and cool homes. When used optimally, a heat pump consumes less energy and is more efficient than other types of heating equipment available on the market. An excellent way to reduce your electricity bill during Quebec winters.
now you know where I got the video from. Quebec, good old Canada. Let's see. Okay. Mark, anything to add to that? Is that essentially correct?
Yeah, no, that looked good.
All right. So there were 2 fundamental kinds of heat pumps, geothermal and air source. That video was showing air source. That's what we installed. It's not what we wanted. As Sarah said in her introduction, you're a geologist.
I so wanted a geothermal system. I thought that would be the coolest thing ever. And again, back to the constraints of our particular piece of property. Those big trees we talked about make drill rig access difficult. Having spent many years trying to figure out how to get drill rigs into difficult places, I will tell you that this yard is not particularly conducive to access. Again, all those trees, we didn't want to cut them down. We're on a slope. We don't have a lot of, most of our yard is in the back, and the way the house is laid out almost completely covers the frontage, so you can't drive around the side. And also for some stuff that Doug will get into, I'm sure, with what we did ultimately do. We live in an old house that is very gabley. It was constructed, as many old New England houses are, one wing at a time, and we were basically told by everybody we would actually need 2 systems, which drives up the cost. And during the pandemic, maybe in 2021, we did have a geothermal contractor come in, and they quoted us $117,000 for the geothermal system. And even at the time, the way the incentives worked, we could have taken out an interest-free loan for like $85,000 or something. That still worked out to $1,000 a month for 7 years, plus the stuff the loan didn't cover. And we said, no. So that unfortunately it wasn't going to work. I was very disappointed because as a geologist, I thought it would be the coolest thing ever. But
Yeah.
Conceptually, by the way, just to kind of close the loop, so to speak, as that previous video was explaining, this coolant that circulates around and then an air source interacts with the compressor and takes advantage of the temperature of the outside air. What geothermal does is it just runs that coolant either deep into the ground through vertical wells, or in some cases through a layered network kind of a few feet under, if you're willing to excavate your entire yard. But the benefit of geothermal is that once you get down past the frost line in the earth, you've got a nice even temperature that's not going to go up or down, and so it can be much more efficient. But the installation cost is
and it
super.
tends to be an even temperature that is approximately equal to the average temperature of the year. So around here, it's in the mid 50s or so. So that's really nice when, you've already got a cooler source than hot air in the summer and a warmer source than cold air in the winter. So you've got this very stable source of heat to draw from.
Yeah. The one other thing that really helped us, and we'll see this later, this last bullet, improved low temperature heating. Air source heat pumps have been around for quite a while, but the first generations of them, and again, Mark may have better information, they were great, but they didn't heat particularly well once the ambient temperature got below, well, I don't know, 40 degrees, 30 degrees, maybe 20. As the generations of heat pumps have gone on, they've gotten better and better at lower temperatures. A lot of installations that from previous years include resistance heat or kind of a backup heating source for those really, really cold days. But now the heat pumps are good enough that you don't, at least in this climate, you don't actually need those. And as I'll get into a little bit more later, our system is 100% heat pump. There is no backup heat source at all. And it worked just great when it got down to zero last winter, as you all know. So let's see. All right. So yeah, at our house, and kind of, I'll just state it explicitly because we've kind of danced around it a little bit. When you have an older house, or honestly, whatever house, there's not one size fits all for any of these technologies. And depending on your property, some things may work and some things may not work as easily. This is our house from the back. I think this main portion dates from about 1890 or so. And then on the right side, this was added early last century. We're not really sure when. On the left side, we added this 1990 or so. I'm just going to mute Rick there for a second. But the challenge of it, actually, let me go to the next slide. Here's our floor plan, both first floor on the left and second floor on the right. The house is spread out a bunch, and it makes it difficult for one system to reach all of it. This part of the attic is not connected to the rest of the attic in terms of running ductwork. There's foundation walls here and here. This area only has a crawl space. It gets complicated. Although this thing about the floor plans is kind of cool. I don't know if anybody's had folks in giving them quotes on things like this, or maybe even just home renovations. When all the heat pump contractors would come through, they would just point their camera or their tablet at all of the walls, and it was, as it went, it was building a 3D map and floor plan of the house. So That was kind of cool.
It was very cool to watch. It's a tool that in my working life I would have loved to have had. So it was very cool to see.
But in any sense, the point of these two slides is to indicate that one of the challenges was to get a system that could adequately feed all the different parts of the house. It's not a huge house. It's only a little over 2,000 square feet.
Yeah. I mean, it's not tiny, but by modern standards of building 4,000 or 5,000 square foot homes, it's not large.
But it's disconnected. So that our bedroom again is not connected really to the rest of the house other than through a stairway. Where we're sitting right now is this office area. This is exposed on every side except this one and this one.
The former exterior porch that at some point in the past was enclosed, and I say winterized in sort of with caution, because in the winter it always was cold.
Yeah. Right. Which I will get to. It's much nicer now with the heat pump. So anyway, moving on to trying to choose a vendor because everybody's out there wanting to sell these systems and make a buck. They're folks that are just traditional gas furnace, oil furnace vendors that are jumping in. There are people that are exclusively in this business. But this is where, so as you can see here, we went through kind of multiple stages. I started with good old Facebook, just asking in the Natick groups, hey, who's put in heat pumps? Who have you used? I think we got maybe 3 or 4 vendor recommendations there, and actually had some of those folks come by and give us quotes. We would tell all of these vendors exactly the same thing. We live in this older house. Right now, it's a ducted system. There was an oil furnace in the basement connected to ductwork that fed the first floor and the second floor. We'd like to continue to use the ductwork if at all possible. The other main way, and you'll see this later on, of providing heat pump cooling and heating is through the use of what's called mini splits, these rectangular units that sit on your walls. But just the style of this house, we didn't think that they would look all that great on the first floor, and the sloped ceilings on the second floor were going to make their physical placement really difficult.
There's also very low ceilings on the second floor, so above the windows, even in the places where there's gables that are a little higher, there still wasn't enough room to put these things in most places.
So despite giving kind of the same set of starting conditions to all these contractors, I think the first 3 or 4 quotes were almost completely different system configurations from each other. So that's where we started to take advantage of the great Natick heat pump coaching program. I think multiple communities have these, and Mark, you can certainly jump in if you like. Although Mark lives just down the street from us, the heat pump coach that got assigned to us was another guy that everybody here knows well, Roger Luckman. And he came out and looked at, and it was a completely free service, came and looked at our house, looked at the quotes that we had gotten so far.
Annie Eisenberg.
He prepared this wonderful, detailed report on all the different quotes and kind of summarizing what each one was going to do and what the pros and cons of them all are. So it's an amazing service that anybody considering this should certainly take advantage of. Mark, anything you want to add to that? Or how long have you been a heat pump coach yourself?
A little over 4 years.
4? Yeah.
In Natick.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had a question. Did you do any weatherization work prior to doing your heat pumps? Because that's one of the things that we really recommend up front, that people do whatever.
Yeah, thanks. I should have mentioned that at the outset. Over the years, we've had Mass Save in here, repeatedly doing various projects, primarily insulation. 2 different times, right? Is the standards
at least twice as standards have changed. And the first time might have been 3 times that we went at this, that when we bought the house, it was completely uninsulated. And this was we bought it in 82. And at that time, we were both working and we would just, would be out of the house all day and we'd set the thermostat at 55 and go away and, put on sweaters when we got home because it was expensive to heat. And when our first child was born and we said, with a new baby, we've got to have a little more heat, our heating bill doubled that winter. And we said we have got to insulate it. There was one night we lost power and you could almost watch the temperature in the house drop. It was a cold night, about 5 degrees. So our first, in the 80s, it was our first go at insulating the walls. I don't think they did that much with the attic roof.
I don't remember
at that time. And then they came back and did insulation in the attic, and then they came back again because the code had changed. They said we qualify for more insulation in the attic, so they added some more. So yeah, that's a good question, Mark. And yes, we have attempted to deal with that as best as we could with, as I say, with this very rambly old construction. This is what's called a balloon framed house, which is an old style of framing. And we had blown in insulation put in since the house was already up when we got it insulated. And there was one section they said, gee, we're putting a lot of insulation in here. And we went down in the basement and the insulation had blown out the bottom of the framing, and there was a pile of insulation about 5 feet tall in the basement. So yeah, it's been an adventure the whole time. Owning an old house, I think, always is.
In addition to the insulation, there are, we did replace some of the windows and do some door sealing and so forth. But and that's definitely important. And in fact, it particularly becomes important when we get down to this thing called a manual J calculation, which I'll get to in just a second. So, but anyways, one of the other wonderful things that Roger did as part of the heat pump was he also suggested some additional vendors that we might consider that he knew provided quality work. So we went back out for kind of vendor quotes stage 2 and got another three or four quotes, again, giving them the same set of conditions, and again, getting wildly varying configurations. I honestly don't know why there's that different, but we ended up with 8 different proposals. And again, we needed help making sense of all of these. We were continuing to talk with Roger, but in addition to that, Mass Save provides another consultation service through Abode, I think, and so they provided a report where they actually go in and you give them the specific proposals that you've gotten. They can be from multiple vendors. In our case, we had already kind of narrowed it down to one strongly preferred vendor, but they'll kind of double check that the models that the vendor is the actual equipment is on the correct list for incentives, and look at all of the performance specs and kind of double check that what the vendor is telling you is actually correct. One of the things that this is just an example of their report. Let me just go back to the presentation for a second.
Yeah, we highly recommend that folks get a Mass Save decarbonization consultation, if at all possible, since they do a really nice job of comparing quotes, up to 5 quotes.
Yeah.
And if you end up, after discussion of their analysis, wanting to revise your system somehow, they'll actually also take, the revised quotes back and look at those as well.
Yep, which they did in our case. Yeah. So both they and Roger, and I'm sure you too, Mark too, also talked about the importance of this thing called a manual J calculation, which is, if anybody's ever considering putting a heat pump in, you've got to make sure that your vendor produces this. Endless Energy is the vendor we ultimately ended up using. So this is their report. And I won't go through it in detail. I just want to let you see that it goes on and on and on. It kind of constructs all kinds of data about every single room in your house. You put in information, to Mark's point earlier about what your house has for insulation and ceiling and windows and things like that, because that will affect how efficient the house is and what the BTU heating and cooling load is throughout the whole place. Ultimately, all of this data goes into a calculation that determines how big your system needs to be. And if any vendor is proposing heat pumps for you and not using this, it's just kind of, wetting your finger and sticking it up in the wind as to whether it's really going to be accurate or not. So super important to have that. So after all of that, as I mentioned, we had 8 different proposals. We had, I think, more than an order of magnitude difference in the pricing. We had at the top, somebody wanted more than $70,000 to build a system for us. At the bottom, somebody said, "Oh yeah, you can do it for about $7,000. It should work just fine." Like, where do you go with that? You go to the heat pump coaches, and they help sort through all of it. So ultimately, here's what we went with. Again, the house is spread out quite a bit. Yeah, I'm sorry, Martin. Sorry, I didn't recognize your hand. Got to come off mute.
Yeah, I never remember that. Yeah, are we talking about capital expenditure, or are we talking about operating at this point?
That's capital. Yeah, the total installed cost, which Sarah was mentioning, a 0% 7-year loan, and there were rebates and incentives. So that's not the net cost of the system. There are things that come off of that, ways to finance it. But in any event, so what we ended up with here, it is 2 systems, and there's a couple of reasons for it. One is, as I've said a bunch of times, the house is kind of spread out quite a bit. To heat the entire thing is just beyond the capacity of one outdoor compressor. Also, although we've raised 4 wonderful children and they're off doing all their adult kid things, right now it's just Sarah and I living here. So we very much have the situation that we kind of have the primary space that we want heated and cooled, which is the first floor in our bedroom. And then kind of a secondary area, which is all of the second floor rooms and the basement and so forth. So we've got one system that reuses the ductwork that existed for the first floor, replaces the air handler, the old oil furnace that was in the basement, with a heat pump air handler. And then, because the other part of our primary heating need is our master bedroom, there is functionally a mini split. Mini splits typically are mounted high on the wall, and again, slope ceilings and so forth. It didn't work too well in that room, so I'll show you a picture of it in a minute. There's a unit that sits lower down on the wall. So that's the first system, and those are connected to one outdoor compressor. And then there's a second system that's actually sitting up in the attic with new ductwork to the second floor bedrooms that we don't need to use as much. And then that also connects to a mini split that's down in the basement. One of the interesting things about heat pumps, at least my understanding, I mean, we had an oil furnace before, so whenever that thing was running, it was generating some heat in the basement just because there's this big giant thing in there burning stuff. But with the air handler, that's not the case. So the basement would have been much colder, too cold. I have a pretty extensive basement workshop down there that needs to be at least a little bit warm, not to mention just keeping all the plumbing lines above freezing. So here's the system. And then this last thing, no supplemental heat. I mentioned earlier, the earlier heat pumps didn't do well in really extreme cold weather. And some of the vendors, kind of older school, said, oh yeah, you'll put in, resistance heat with our system. So if it ever gets cold, you can just turn that on. One of them actually wanted to keep our oil furnace and just add a heat pump on top of it. I was like, we really, really, really want to get rid of that oil tank and get off of fossil fuels. So this is what we bought.
Did Abode say anything about your ductwork and whether it was suitable for a heat pump?
They did, and again, thanks for mentioning it. You're reminding me of all the things that I forgot to put in this presentation. What they said and what this vendor and what we ended up doing said, the ductwork is usable as long as you A, insulate it, and B, even better, seal it. So was it called air sealing?
Air sealing.
Air
Yeah,
sealing.
which is very cool.
That I'm trying to remember. I don't remember the specific number here, but they do a test of blowing air through your system and kind of essentially gauge for all the little nooks and crannies how big an aggregate hole you have in your ductwork system. And then they seal it by blowing in this kind of almost vaporized rubbery stuff that finds all of these places and seals them. And then they measure again. And we had, I believe, about a 90% reduction or something in the leakage.
And when when Doug will talk more about the preparation for doing this, we had to kind of basically make access for the contractors, which is easier said than done. The things we found screwed up about our ductwork were mind-blowing.
There's some pictures here.
Yeah, I'll let Doug get to it, but when you really look at, it's kind of like seeing how the sausage is made. We really peeled back and looked at it. It was like, holy cats, no wonder our heating issues have been going on for a long time.
Yeah. So so we had finally settled on them, and now is getting.
So just sorry.
Yeah.
So back to the ductwork and its suitability or lack thereof. The basic conclusion seemed to be that the ductwork on the first floor would be acceptable for continuing to use as long as we cleaned it, which we had recently had done, and insulate it and do the air sealing and so forth. But the second floor was just not going to cut it. But another sort of side question that went back and forth on was whether we had some contractors say, oh, you can absolutely use all the ductwork, and others said, no, you cannot use any of it because condensation will form and your house will mold and things will grow in the walls. And, it was just, even the ductwork was confusing to deal with. So it was a process.
Yeah. So we ended up with a system of reusing the first once we insulated it and sealed it, and abandoning the second, meaning disconnecting all the connections to that. So to prepare for it, an attic clean out and a basement clean out. So because there was going to be a big air handler in the attic, that meant we needed to get just about everything that we store in the attic. I don't know how your attics are, but we had a lot of stuff up there.
We've been here over 40 years.
We had to at least temporarily remove that. And then once the installation was done, we would be able to put some of the stuff back in. And the same deal with the basement. And again, I'm a amateur woodworker. Sarah's been wonderful to allow me to take over pretty much almost all of the basement with my workshop. But boy, did I let that get messy. So creating space for the installation and also exposing all of the ductwork because they were going to be insulating it and sealing it. That was quite a project in and of itself. So here's just a few pictures. This is our old oil furnace. This is the exhaust pipe that goes into the chimney here. Some sense of just you can barely walk around here. There's just stuff everywhere in the shop. Here's a couple of examples of how bad the ductwork is. This was the ductwork that was supposedly going to our dining room, maybe a little bit hard to, but it's just got, there's a gaping hole here. The main trunk here, when I was exposing this for them to work on, I put my hand up over here and there was a full like 8 by 10 hole, like they had cut in to put some other duct in and then never covered it up.
They
So-
not being the current contractors, but somebody before we bought the house had done this, and it doesn't, I don't know about you, but as a new homeowner, it doesn't necessarily occur to you that there's a giant hole where you can't see it in your ductwork. So we had no idea this thing was there.
Duct runs are most efficient when they're straight. I guess you can kind of see that this one is not straight. It goes up and over and down and around.
And it also, so the furnace sits kind of right in front of where this picture is taken, but the trunk that fed this went out to the right into a different room. And then that picture Doug was just showing.
Yeah, it's actually the same one.
It comes out into a different room and then goes back. And then it does the whole snake thing. So no wonder our dining room, this goes up to the dining room. No wonder our dining room was a little cold with the heat not being able to get there.
Right. Yeah. So in addition to insulating, also making the duct runs more efficient to the extent possible. All right. So the installation, how many contractors have told you, oh yeah, it'll take a couple of weeks. I mean, admittedly, this is a big system. It's two complete systems, but it's scheduled for October. It took them about a month, and turned out to be about 3 different crews. They were all good, I guess, but as best we can figure, these kind of projects, like maybe a lot of major renovation projects, when contractors give you a price, they've taken down some parameters, how many square feet of space are we heating? What's the BTU load? How many running feet of duct might we need or whatever? But they really haven't looked truly at the details. And I think what the first crew discovered was, wow, this job is way bigger than we were led to believe. So they worked for a while, and then they got relieved by the second crew. They were all good, but it took just about a month or so.
And I think also part of what was going on was there was a federal credit that was expiring at the end of the year.
Right.
And a lot of people were doing exactly what we did, of saying, holy moly, we've got to get this done now. So that the contractors were very, very busy, all trying to run around and get, a lot of work done in a short time. And, that's stressful to be in that situation. So that was a piece of it too, I think.
We did have a couple of fun things along the way in this thermostat issues. The second floor system, when they first connected it, these systems run off of smart thermostats, which I'll get to a little bit later in the presentation, but there's a lot of wires to them. And if you don't get them hooked up exactly right, they do funny things. Like the second floor initially would turn on just fine and never turn off. The only way to turn it off was to go outside and actually hit the separate breaker panel. So clearly that needed fixing. The bedroom unit, they get a little bit more complex when you have multiple units that share an outdoor compressor. And this one, the bedroom was supposed to be separately controlled by its own thermostat, but it basically was just kind of running in concert with the first floor air handler, whatever whenever that system was calling for heat, it would turn the bedroom on. But again, eventually working with it, other people do it. Hopefully it won't be quite as complicated. Here's a few pictures just of kind of the chaos of in getting the thing installed. This is the old system has been taken out at this point. Here's the new system starting to be built again. The shop is in a shambles. As I mentioned, we only used the first floor ducts, so all of the runs to the second floor ducts got disconnected. Here's the good old Pink Panther here in a foam plug sealing off one of those. I just thought that was kind of cute. We now have this Pink Panther guy in our basement. So, this was a momentous moment for us. That is our oil tank being removed. Um, One of the best things about this whole system was to truly be off fossil fuel. And
so this is looking down the basement stairs as they are bringing the oil tank just about to go out the door.
Right.
It's a little, yet another difficult thing is, there's low headroom and a tight corner, and these guys trying to get the oil tank out. And I know when I watched that one go in, as a hazardous waste person years ago, I said, our oil tank is old and my coworkers will never let me hear the end of it if my oil tank ruptures in my basement. So we had it replaced, and I saw it come in and I saw it go out.
And side note here, if anybody's wondering about this flaming dragon, that's a mural that our daughter painted in this stairway. So it's always great fun to take any contractor down the stairs, and we always have to say, "Watch out for the dragon" as you go down the stairs. So, anyway, so previous picture, oil tank being removed. This picture was the thing I was most excited about with the oil tank. This is where the oil tank had been in the basement workshop, which means that I had even more room for my basement workshop. So that made me a happy camper. Quick side note about this. If you're ever doing this, make sure you tell the oil company that you are doing this. We had signed the contract. We were getting close to the installation date, and it suddenly occurred to me, we've got about a half a tank in oil. It's usually around this time of year the oil company comes to top you off for the new heating system. So I went outside and put a little sign on the oil fills that said, "Don't put any oil here." I called the oil company to say, "We're switching to heat pumps, don't deliver." The guy said, "Oh, I'm glad you called. You were scheduled for delivery today." I got off the phone and the oil truck pulled up and stopped and ran out and told him, "No." And in addition to that, make sure, as we did, that you remove the oil fills from the house. You may have heard horror stories of people that didn't do that. They've got no oil tank anymore, but if you still have the fill and somebody thinks, "Oh yeah, let's fill that tank with oil," they fill your basement with oil, and that's a disaster.
It's a major, major hassle.
There's a couple of pictures of our attic where we were doing new ductwork. So here's some of the new ductwork. It's a combination of this flexible stuff that has insulation built in. It's enormous. And then I don't know if I show a picture of it, but some rigid ductwork as well. Yeah, this is rigid duct that's insulated as well. This part of the attic is about 4 feet of headroom. I felt so bad for the guys having to crawl down there and install all this stuff, but they did a great job. Here's the main part of our attic. Here's the new upstairs air handler with the ductwork that connects to it. Sarah mentioned that we had attic insulation put in twice. The first time it went up just to the level of the collar ties that kind of support the ceiling and hold the roof together. The second time, it was so much more insulation that it was well above that, but we still wanted to store things there. So I built kind of this false floor that is above the higher level of insulation, but still allows things to be stored. But as you can see, a lot of that space got taken up with the heat pump. Here's a picture of this very brave guy at the very top of the ladder at the south end of our house. This black line here is one of the lines that contains the coolant hose, and he's feeding that up through the side of the house to go to that attic unit. I can't imagine being on a ladder like that, but I guess it was second nature. There was a little bit of interior damage, but they were very good. It was right in the contract they would repair any of it. Here's just some problems with the plaster ceiling there and there, but they sent a finish guy and took care of that right away. So, and so when it was all said and done, here's the pictures of the final system. So here's our new air handler in the basement, still feeding our ductwork, but nice new insulated. Here's these big black pipes here carry the coolant in and out. Here's our plugged hole, since we no longer have a chimney. A month or two after this installation, one of the chimney cleaning guy services called up and said, "No, we cleaned your chimney a couple of years ago. Would you like it cleaned again?" I said, "Guess what? We don't use that chimney anymore." That was nice to tell him that. Here's the attic air handler, pretty much the identical piece of equipment, just turned on its side. This big pan underneath, the way these work can generate some condensation, which in this case would collect in this pan if needed. But it also drains out through this white hose outside. This is the mini split that's in our basement. You guys have probably seen these in various locations. And then this is that wall unit in our bedroom. It just didn't work to have it high up. So this one's lower down, but it's the same basic approach. The air comes out here and here. This floor grate was connected to the old ductwork that got abandoned as part of this whole thing. And then it's the outdoor compressors. So here's one outdoor compressor on the south end of our house. That one feeds the attic air handler and the mini split. And then this larger compressor feeds the basement air handler that runs all the first floor ductwork and the unit in our bedroom. At one point, this is a little bit of an eyesore, given that this is our back patio, and I wanted to enclose this in some lattice work, but I didn't want to impinge too much on the exhaust capability. These are giant fans. So I asked out on Reddit columns. There are heat pump groups. I'll get to your question in just a second, Cindy. What do people think about how much, how far away does any of my lattice work or screening need to be? And some guy from Texas responded saying, "What the heck? I have never seen an outdoor compressor mounted like that." What he was referring to was it being up on legs like this, which in New England we know we need to do that because you need to keep the stuff out of the snow. But in Texas, well, maybe now they're getting snow, who knows? But he'd never seen that before. Cindy, you got your hand up.
Yeah, just curious. You're talking about what it looks like. Does it, how much noise does it make?
It does make some noise. It's a very steady noise. But it's, we can hear it.
We hear it. I mean, so the smaller one is right outside our downstairs bathroom. So, if you are in the bathroom, you hear it, but given that we hope we don't have to spend a whole lot of time in the bathroom, oversharing. But it's, I would say it's not, it's not really intrusive.
Yeah, I just asked because my mom lives next door to some people that have an air conditioning unit on the side of their house that's very close to my mom's yard, and it makes a lot of noise. So I suppose this is quite a bit less.
Yeah, we haven't in the summer with the air conditioning running, we haven't had a lot of use yet because we're still in the early part of the summer. But given that if we're running the air conditioning, we're probably not having the windows open. I'm not expecting the cooling season to be particularly different in sort of the amount of noise that we hear inside. I will say, I don't know if you have, Doug, but I have not spent a lot of time just standing next to it outdoors to see what it's like. The one that Doug was just showing that's out in the by the patio, it's quite a distance to the next house. The other one is a little closer. I will say that I have not explicitly asked our neighbor about it on that side. But hopefully it's not driving her nuts.
Yeah. Anyway, so once it got all in, first off, most importantly, well, how the heck does it work? Well, it works great. The thing that we were maybe surprised about, but so excited about, is the heat is much more even throughout the house. It used to be, it would run, and then as soon as it was off, we'd kind of just start feeling cold drafts. The room we're sitting in, I mentioned earlier, is exposed on almost all sides. Always ran cold, much more even heat now. The laundry room, which was at the extreme end run of the ductwork, was really cold. And that's much nicer now. That super cold weather we got in the winter, this past winter, did fine with that as well. So that's cool. In terms of cost, we saw our first $1,000 electric bill, which got me a little bit alarmed until I kind of remembered, yeah, but we're not paying thousands of dollars for oil every winter. And
I will add also that $1,000 includes everything. There's no gas on the street. So we've always had electric hot water, cooking and drying. So there's not also a gas bill in there.
Right. My rough calculations after the first full heating season is that, when you take out our costs the previous year for oil and electricity versus just electricity this last heating system, we're ahead of the game. It actually saved us money. That was not the primary reason we were doing it. We were doing it to be more efficient and more friendly to the earth. But it's nice to have that. And honestly, I should have said this right at the outset. The other reason we did this is we have never had whole house air conditioning. And as climate change has worsened and the summers have gotten worse, we've managed with a couple of noisy window air conditioners, but they've never been that great. And so we're kind of looking forward to having whole house air conditioning with this, which we've already enjoyed the first couple of heat waves that we've had. So,
and the folks,
go right ahead, Mark. Yeah.
Oh, I was just going to mention that the folks who have a heat pump can now get the heat pump rate from November through April.
Yes.
It takes about 25% off your rate, makes electric a little more competitive with gas, maybe even cheaper, currently, but
yeah,
it's helpful.
Yeah, it's absolutely helpful. And you don't have to, even if you have a heat pump in your house, it does. A lot of folks have a heat pump that maybe supplements their existing system. As I understand it, you qualify for that heat pump rate if you have any heat pump. It doesn't have to be a complete system like we have. And just going back all the way to community solar, the way community solar works, it queues off of whatever rate you're paying at whatever time. So when that heat pump rate kicks in November through April, our credits work off of that lower rate.
And that rate is for all electricity use in the home. So if you're, charging your EV or, using other, using it for water heating, you get a discount on that as well.
Yeah. So here's just a couple of pictures of kind of putting the house back together. Here's some of the ductwork for the system, but it's just, that just meant I needed to build some shelving, above it. I decided here's that same piece of duct work that I showed you earlier with this weird offshoot that went convoluted way back to the dining room. That was removed with a more streamlined run and it was insulated, but then I took the time to kind of enclose this and put sheetrock over it. Here's our basement ceiling with all of the cabling for the system that made it kind of messy, but everything had gotten so disrupted to put the system in. When it came time to put the house back together again, I decided to finally really go to town and make the basement system look a little bit nicer. So here's a finished ceiling that I put in place that encapsulates the this stuff as much as possible. And I finally cleaned my workshop. I'm so excited. It's the cleanest it's ever been. So we'll see how long it lasts, but I love it. And I've got more room because there's no oil tank. I mentioned before the guy from Texas say, why is your outdoor compressor up on legs? Well, it's because when you had a winter like we had,
Can you barely see the legs now?
right? Yeah, you can't see the legs hardly at all, but the compressor is above it. Oh, and here's that lattice screening that I built too, to just shield that a little bit. You don't want to put an obstruction on the exhaust side of the compressor. So this is just a two-sided thing on the back and on one side. So, my gosh, we've already gotten just about to 10:30. I don't. Everybody still appears to be awake, but this gets to the part of the presentation I won't dwell on it, I guess, too long, but what I really started wondering about was, well, okay, great. We think we've used less electricity, but how much exactly? And well, how much did it cost versus how much did we use? Well, how much, relative to how cold it was. I mean, it matters whether you get a mild winter or a cold winter. We've got four different components and the ability to separately heat and cool four different areas of the house. How much do each of those components cost is like so many questions. So this gets into kind of the measurement and absolutely the geeky part of this whole presentation. I mentioned earlier, smart thermostats, they happen to be Ecobee or Ecobee brand thermostats. Those control the two air handlers. And they put out all kinds of information every 5 minutes. It'll tell you exactly what the system is doing if you want to know. Also, Brindley and Greg have one of these weather stations. We have one as well that has thermometers all over the place, and you can measure temperatures in any room that you want or outside. And then electricity, we've all been getting smart meters installed, which now can tell you how much you're using like on a daily basis. And if you tell them what you have for equipment in your house, they can somewhat break down what was using what components were using what. But for electricity, I wanted to go deeper than that. And there are these systems where you can actually install them in your electric panel and put little magnetic sensors, that's what this little white thing is, on the wire on individual circuit breakers, and it will tell you exactly how much power is passing through that part of the panel. And you can put them on up to 16 different places in your electric panel.
And when he says you, we mean an electrician.
Yes, yeah, an electrician. You do not want to be doing this kind of thing on your own. But once you put all of that in, and they all connect to this little box that connects out to the internet, you can measure your individual circuit usage. So that will tell me exactly how much each heat pump unit is using. Not to mention how much is my refrigerator using, or the stove, or the dryer, or the PCs that we're using to deliver this presentation. So when you're a data geek like me, you're kind of in seventh heaven over this stuff.
Hey, Doug, do you know if electricians, I don't see why they couldn't use that diagnostically when you have a circuit that periodically overloads. For instance, we've had lots of breakers replaced and sort of updated and so forth, because we've had any number of frequent circuit breaker overload things, particularly in the kitchen. And it seems random because sometimes not very much is on and you're like, what in the heck happened here? So that strikes me that I never heard of these measurement things, but I think we should ask our electrician to do that in the sensitive areas to figure out what actually caused a blowout.
Yeah, it's an interesting thought. I don't know whether an electrician would have something like this that they could install temporararily and monitor.
Yeah. Well, thanks.
Yeah.
Carrie's good.
Oh, yeah, Carrie. Yeah.
Yeah, I know we're wrapping up just about the whole presentation. if I could take a minute just to tell you my little history to energy efficiency, it will be very quick.
Yeah.
In 2003, I bought an 1870 two-family house that originally was a single family. There was zero insulation in the house. I hauled out almost 19 tons of horsehair plaster and building debris by myself to a 40-foot dumpster, insulated everything with the help of Massberg, put icing under the ceiling, eventually got rid of there was one oil-fired boiler, and there was two thermostats in the entire house, and they were both on the first floor. In the wintertime, I was raising the bedroom windows to let heat out, even though it was literally that bad. I got two high-efficiency gas boilers, split the water, which hadn't been done before. Got my first solar panels in 2013, Solar City ones in 2013. Got a four-head heat pump in 2014, I think. Yeah, 2014, and a second solar array on I have no south exposure pretty much. I have two panels there, and I've got it on the west wing. My average gas bill, I just calculated since the last 2 years, has been $21 a month. And
wow.
Usually I have a net credit with the electricity, all the way up until wintertime kicks on, and I have to really use the heat pump I have. So there are things you can do, and it was a big investment overall, but it's almost all paid for. I have 2 more years of payments to the second solar array, and I'm being free.
Yeah, that's fantastic. I mean, I think the overall lesson in both of those stories is it can be quite a project, but ultimately it's worth it in all cases.
Oh yeah, I remember the $1,000 oil bills, and splitting it with my tenant and doing it was horrible. Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Did they give you a payback number of years, like 10 years or 12 years, Doug, on your heat pumps?
No, I don't think they did.
Some
did
of
they?
them did.
Yeah.
Because I want to say a number of around 10 years is
Maybe.
in my brain, but I don't know
Yeah.
if that was a formal written thing or if it was, it'll be about 10 years. I don't remember the details.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I honestly don't know. But yeah, we're at 10:30 now. There's more to this presentation. Maybe I'll just kind of go through the slides really quickly. To me, you can never measure enough things. The mini splits, the smart thermostats tell you exactly what the air handlers are doing. They don't tell you anything about the mini split. You don't necessarily even know when it's on if you're trying to measure how often did that run versus the air handler. But if you measure the temperature of the air coming out at the mini split and put in like a fancy Excel spreadsheet, well, then you can figure it out. So here was my prototype of a temperature sensor on boards measuring it. Here's the one in the bedroom. I don't think Sarah would go for this in the long term. It didn't really look too good. But here's the improved version. It's still just a little temperature probe, and that temperature is getting measured every 5 minutes. And so I've got spreadsheets that will chart all of that stuff. Without even doing that, let's see, does this work? The use of the smart thermostats that will show you if it comes up properly. What's going on with our two systems? Let's see, downstairs. Few details. This well, this is, you could go back and I guess it probably hasn't run a little bit. This is showing indoor and outdoor temperatures. If I went back far enough to when the system was last running, it would tell me exactly when that heat pump was on. That's on the on the smart thermostat side. Let's see.
Brinley's got a question.
Yeah, Brinley.
Oh, it's not a question, it's just a comment, so I can wait till we have a comment. I just wanted to talk about Mass Save for a second.
Oh, sure. Yeah. Here's the weather station shows different temperatures everywhere, including this is the temperature in our bedroom going up and down as the heat pump turns on and off for cooling, I believe. Although this chart here is the one that shows that temperature sensor right outside the unit going up and down much more drastically. In my spreadsheet, we'll look at those temperatures and then evaluate and say, oh yeah, the system was on or it was off. So, and then the energy monitoring, all those sensors that I showed you in our electrical panel. This will show you, let me see if this thing isn't always the most reliable, but this is a live view showing that at the moment we're using just over 500 watts in the house. You could see it changing every few seconds.
Is that where I turned off the coffee maker? The drop?
Yeah, possibly. Yeah, Sarah turned off the coffee maker. That's probably what that drop is right there. Although this is the total usage. But if I bring up this for all of the different places where it's monitoring, this is 500 watts for the total house. Currently 144 watts for the PCs here, 75 watts for various lights. So again, you can go nuts measuring stuff.
And he did.
And yes, I have gone nuts. It's 10:30. I won't go into the other part of the presentation, which was using AI to help me analyze this stuff even more. But
good grief.
It's good grief. Yeah, that's probably the best way to describe it. I'm going to actually stop the share at this point because I could go on all
him
day.
Entertained for a long time.
I'm getting a vision of a house somewhere like Mars that could be totally, operated by AI. Turning on the coffee maker for whoever's, doing everything, all household chores, basically.
Yeah. So, anyways, the bottom line is it was a lot of work, but it's been great. It's got me more focused on energy than I ever had been before.
This is the guy that I was always the turn the lights off lunatic. And now that he's got a way to measure it, he's become the lights off lunatic.
Yeah. We had an aging refrigerator and Lowe's was selling refrigerators on sale. So we bought a new one as much as anything, just because the old one was eventually going to die. Now with measuring the usage, if I brought the chart back up, I could show you that the new one uses between a third and a half the electricity that the old one uses. Then it came time to start mowing the lawn again, and I went to get the lawnmower tuned up, and they said, this engine's too old, so I bought an electric lawnmower. Oh man,
yeah, it's totally
great.
Gotten into it.
Yeah. So anyway, that's our journey. So
well, everybody's probably heard, but one of the interesting things is just how efficient heat pumps are relative to, for instance, gas furnaces and gas consumption. The percentage of it that actually gets, converted is like 50% or something, some very low number, versus you're probably at 97 to 98, 99%.
Right.
Mark would probably be, if he's still on, would probably be a better source of information about that than me, God knows. But
yeah. I mean, the heat pumps themselves are, as that video said, it's almost like a Trump number. They're 300% efficient.
Yeah. An evil word.
Yeah. Tom, you had your hand up.
Yeah. First, I suggest a part 2 presentation. Because there's a whole slew of questions that I have a couple, and I'm sure other people have a couple, and I think it would be great if you say, "Hey, watch part 1, and then we'll go to part 2."
Yeah, and I think there's a whole. Especially so we live not too far from downtown, and in this neighborhood, there are a lot of older homes that are facing similar issues to ours in terms of roof configuration and wings being added over time, the different construction techniques and all kinds of issues. And, there's sort of this subset of the community that's trying to decarbonize. It's in a way, it's harder when you have an old house than if you have a new house under construction, you could build it that way in the first place. But we tried for a long time to get this done before we finally figured it out.
Yeah.
Well, that Thomas has an idea though that we could do a session sometime when we don't have a guest, which is about energy usage in general, and have people talk about what they're interested in learning and their challenges and what they've done and what it cost and any information they want to share. Everybody would learn something out of that, I'm sure. I mean, I learned things out of this, so
yeah,
continue learning.
Yeah.
And if we had I don't invite Mark back, or have somebody as a facilitator if you didn't want to do it yourself, Doug, because you're certainly well positioned to do it. So be interesting.
Yeah.
And if you really want to nerd out on this, I'd invite you to come to an Alliance meeting and talk about your case study. And, if you want input on measurement, there are people who are, deeply involved, in trying to measure their energy use and, make sense of it all.
Oh, yeah. Oh, man. I think, that's my new community. I think there's probably another half hour of this that I could have done showing. I mean, it's actually been a lot of fun measuring things. I liken it to for people who like clocks, and particularly clocks where all the gears are exposed, you only need the hands to tell you what time it is, but it's still fun to see all the components of the system. And that's where I'm at with this. It's just cool to see how much each component is contributing to it. Brinley, you had your hand up, and Martin too.
Yeah, before we lose too many people, I would just love to say, I don't know how many of us here have used Mass Save, but I've certainly used it twice. And you talked about Mass Save, and I know many of the heat pump coach people are very adamant about it. And Mass Save is a little bit under attack right now through the energy bill that they're trying to push through the legislature, and they're trying to cut like $1 billion from it. And I really firmly believe that Mass Save is one of the best strategies that we've had to help create energy affordability in Massachusetts, because what Mass Save does to help people, heat seal their homes and to insulate their walls and their attics. And they do a blower test, just like you were talking about, when they're done, to see where where you are in your house, and they help you with your light bulbs. And they just kind of are a whole picture perspective for how to make your house the most energy efficient possible, including helping you with switching to heat pumps if you want. And so I do believe that we should all be writing, for those of us who live in Natick, we should all be writing Linsky and Spilka especially right now, because I think that, the next big push is going to come from the Senate. So I really do think that if you guys are up for it, please, I put information in the chat about, and you can really just say, hey, if you have experience, you can say, hey, Mass Save saved me money and I'm still saving money. That's the biggest message that I feel like everybody that's used Mass Save should say, because I think that's the point, right? The whole point of this bill that they have is talking about creating energy affordability. And if you make your house more energy efficient, you are creating lifetime affordability, as opposed to changing rates for this and changing infrastructure for gas and other fossil fuels. So anyway, that's my little soapbox for the week.
It's a really good point.
I really, really think it's really, really important. I've been a part of a group that's met with Linsky several times. We've met with Spilka, one of Spilka's aides. We're still going on it strong. And I firmly believe that if the more people can email about saving the Mass Save budget, the better, because it really is just, it's proven results. It's proven results. We have it. it's incontrovertible. We have the results of what Mass Save does for Massachusetts in terms of creating energy affordability. So,
right. Yeah, absolutely. Good point. Martin.
Yeah, and I'll try to be brief, but it may be a little difficult. So my personal problems, maybe you've not much interest. I feel like I'm in kindergarten here, and I'm talking to a bunch of graduates, PhD graduates that understand way beyond anything I could possibly understand. But our issue in our house is we have traditional roof solar that takes care of the vents on the upstairs, and that was vented, so we had no problem with that. The downstairs, we had 3 unconnected rooms. That's a kitchen, den, living room, and dining room. Actually, 4 rooms, come to think of it. And when we did talk to somebody, they said we can actually put one Fujitsu unit, which is like a wall unit, that could cover all 4 rooms somehow. I have no idea how it did it, but it worked quite well in providing pretty even air conditioning for about 10 to 15 years, at which point the thing broke down. And we were told that they don't make anything that can replace that or even to maintain it anymore. We had to get something completely new. So with our old unit, I say on a scale of 1 to 10 rates a 9, the new unit rates like a 1 to a 0. It's completely uneven. It's supposed to have a heat pump component. I have no idea how that part works. We've never used that part. But the air conditioning is completely uneven, where it's going to give like Arctic wind in one of the seats in the kitchen, and it would be hot like tropics in one of the other seats in the kitchen, and then the other 3 rooms are on their own and basically have the same problem. They're either very, very hot or very, very cold. And the person who oriented us didn't really give us much guidance, and the instructions provided very little guidance. I really wonder if this is salvageable, if this thing can possibly work with the correct instructions, or who do we get that's neutral that can kind of get us out of this situation? I'd really like to throw the whole thing away, which is like $20,000 worth of investment, and get something new, but we can't do that. We've got to try to work with what we got. So I don't know if you have an answer or a guidance on that one. Again, just our personal situation.
Yeah, I'm glad Mark's still on the call. I mean, I would think that starting with a heat pump coach might be, that seems really odd that new equipment would not work as well as the older equipment. But
yeah, and I hate to say it, but based on our experience of talking to 8 vendors and getting 8 radically different things, I don't know how many vendors you've spoken to about this, but it's just like, medically, sometimes the best thing you can do is get a second opinion.
Yeah. Maybe that's what we need, although we can't really throw away what we got.
But maybe somebody could help you. I'm not a HVAC engineer, so I'm kind of talking out of my hat here, but maybe somebody could help you tweak it somehow that,
Yeah. That's probably the way to go. Yeah.
Yeah.
I assume you've been in touch with the person who installed it, the company?
Yeah, but I think we somehow haven't been in touch with the right person there, because we haven't gotten much good information.
When you were first describing the system, I was going to say that, mini splits are good for heating and cooling individual rooms, and to the extent that you have an open floor plan or a lot of doorways, they can heat or cool multiple spaces. But then you went on to say that the original system worked great for all 3 or 4 of those rooms. So your floor plan wasn't or isn't the issue. It's something about the equipment itself, which is odd.
I suppose. Yeah. It just, I mean, it's sort of the way the things go up and down, whatever those are called, the way the vents go up and down and back and forth is not doing the trick. It's the old one was, and this one isn't, and we can't seem to think about how to make it do it. So
we've had a little discussion about this, operation of mini splits in the Alliance, the Heat Smart Alliance, and the most efficient or the most effective way to get dispersion of the heating was to have it on high and have it run straight along the ceiling. So it might be something to try. I don't know if, that's the issue or it's something else. It's really hard to know.
That may be it. But I think we did some experimenting yesterday, and that was the sort of the best direction. And maybe we just have to fine tune that a bit.
Yeah.
And or maybe they just didn't put in the right kind of
along
equipment.
the ceiling is still not quite high enough to get over my head because I'm tall. But the question is where do we sit? I have a particular seat in the kitchen I like to sit at, but I may have to sit in a different seat. That's
yeah.
kind of
wow.
I don't know.
That's really something.
Wow.
Yeah. Well, we're well past 10:30, and one thing I want to thank Adam for hanging out so long with us. As he said, he's up next in the hot seat. It isn't really a hot seat, but Adam, hopefully you've gotten the sense that it's pretty friendly crowd. But we're really interested in you coming to speak next week and welcoming you to Natick and hearing what your plans are for Elliott Church and so forth. We have a particular affinity for Elliott Church ourselves, being in the first congregational in the center of town, because as I'm sure those two institutions kind of have this shared history going all the way back to the start of the town and what Reverend Elliott himself was doing at the time. So anyway.
Yeah, so this year, 2026, is the 375th anniversary since the original Elliott Church was founded. And so I'll talk a little bit about history, but also, sort of plans for going forward. I don't know that I'll have a whole hour and a half of things to talk about.
You do not need to.
You don't need to.
Please come with questions or thoughts, or you'll know more history than I do, probably, folks who have been around Natick for a long time. But it was nice to be here with you all.
Yeah, great. All right. And do we have any other current events to be sharing?
A quick update. I would just like to say that there's actually a whole bunch of stuff happening on Thursday this week that I think many of us would probably be really interested in. So there's an event called Rail Meets Trail. They're doing the special grand opening of the end of the Cotichuate Rail Trail on Thursday at 3, which is at mile 0. So that's down there kind of where it meets the train. And that should be pretty cool. And there's I don't know if you guys have noticed when you drive by the library, there's a house in the yard. And that's a really cool art project that was coordinated with Framingham as well, Framingham and Natick together, and it's energy related. And it's really cool. And their opening is at 4:30 on the library lawn there, Morse Library downtown. And then this week is our first Natick Nights Out, which is really fun and cool. We're downtown when everybody can go out downtown, and the stores are all open and festive, and that starts at 5 on Thursday.
All right. Lots of stuff. Great. Cool.
Farm Discovery Day is this Saturday, as a matter of fact, at the farm, and that's also a lot of fun.
Wow, cool, very cool. Cindy.
Just like to add that I have about 100 butternut squash plants, if anybody wants any. They're about 12 inches tall and growing. And I have room for about 2. So if anybody wants any, send me a note.
Reach out to Cindy. All right, excellent.
Free.
Great. Thank you. All right, I'm going to turn off the recording at this point.